That's certainly an interesting thought. We hope Senator Murray and I are going to visit this week about higher education, and that will certainly consider that. I don't know the exact figures. I think the numbers are something like 27 or 8 billion of the 36 billion or so in the National Institutes of Health is spent at research universities in this country. So that's where most of it goes. Okay, I want to ask you as we conclude, would you be willing to say what you think the 3 or 4, you mentioned there's 6,000 diseases and 95% of them don't have a treatment. We've talked about sickle cell anemia. What are the 3 or 4 other diseases that are most promising for cures from the CRISPR technology?
So thank you for that question, because the hope and promise of this technology is what excites all of us. And I'm always a bit cautious of the word cure, because we certainly hope to provide durable benefits to patients, but it's a big word. And so I want to make sure we're not overpromising too soon. Other diseases where people are applying CRISPR, there are other eye diseases, such as USH2A, which is a genetic disease of the eye. There are other blood diseases, such as beta thalassemia. There are diseases of the liver that are genetic diseases of the liver. So it really does span across a range of other diseases that, because the technology is so broadly applicable, people are pushing it in many different directions right now.
Yeah, as I said, before, the great thing about this technology is it's a platform technology. So if we figure out, and we as a community figure out how to cure sickle cell disease, with just some subtle tweaks, subtle changes in the reagents, we now can cure severe combined immunodeficiency, bubble boy disease, other primary immunodeficiencies, other genetic diseases of neutrophils in the immune system, other genetic diseases of the blood. It doesn't take a whole new development to move from one disease to the next. So what I really think is important is that we develop 2 or 3 I'm going to use the word cures because I'll be an academic about it, for diseases of the blood. And then we need to develop 2 or 3 cures for eye diseases, because once you have cures for one disease in an organ, that's the platform for the 100 of other diseases in that same organ.
Dr.
So liver, eye, brain, blood.
Would you add to that at all?
Well, I think Matt's point in particular is really important, because one thing that we want to make sure is that the benefits of these therapies are shared widely and with diverse populations. And so I think the idea is that these are platforms which can then be ramped up and used in many other diseases, and not just focus on the diseases that affect the most people.
Yeah. There's the beginning of Thomas Friedman's book when he talks about 10 years ago in 2007, Steve Jobs and John Doerr were at a soccer game, and Jobs showed him the iPhone, and their discussion was about who should do the apps. And Apple was planning on doing the apps, and I think maybe Doerr said, why don't you let everybody do them? That was a pretty big decision. That's the kind of platform you're talking about. Figure it out and then let the world copy it and see how many different inventions we can come with. Well, this has been a fascinating discussion. I thank Senator Murray for her participation in this. I would confess that I told the witnesses, Patty, that I was fishing in Canada in August, and I only listened to the Canadian broadcasting system to get the weather, and on came an interview about CRISPR, and I stopped and I listened, and I was fascinated with it, and I took notes, and I said, one of the privileges of being chairman of this committee is I can have a hearing on that, so that is that's this hearing. I imagine those who listen today are having the same thinking about this, as well as students who are in high school or college wondering what their major ought to be. This is a fascinating future. I'd like to ask unanimous consent that the statement by Dr. Marcy Darnofsky of the Center for Genetics and Society be submitted into the hearing record. The record will remain open for 10 days. Members may submit additional information for the record within that time if they would like. This committee will meet again tomorrow, November 15 at 10 a.m. for a hearing entitled Encouraging Healthy Communities, Perspective from the Surgeon General. Thank you for being here. The committee will stand adjourned.